Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Rebecca Sheffield. Welcome to the It's My Job podcast. Have you ever wondered what grown-ups who are blind or visually impaired do for work? What kind of jobs do they have? What do they study? What was it like for them to go to school? Well, I'm partnering with students across the United States to find out about blind and visually impaired adults and their interesting careers. Every episode of this podcast will feature a student interviewing an adult who is blind or visually impaired to find out about what life is like and what they do at work. How do they use technology? How do they connect with other people? The interview questions were selected by students for students, and we're excited to share these interviews with you. The It's My Job podcast has an email address, a phone number, a Google Classroom, and a Facebook page. We set these up so that students and teachers have many ways to give us feedback, ask questions, and suggest people we should interview. Be sure to stay tuned after the podcast for more information about how you can get involved. And don't forget to tell your friends and teachers so they can listen to that podcast too. With that, let's get right into our interview. For our first episode, Mohammed, a student in the U.S. Virgin Islands, is interviewing Mr. Mark Richert. Mark is a lawyer and a policy expert. You can find him on Twitter at MDRINDC. That's at MDR, the word in, and then the letters DC. Let's listen and find out what Mohammed has learned from Mr. Richert.
So the first question, what is your name?
My name is Mark. What's your name?
My name is Mohammed.
Nice to meet you.
The second question, what is your job?
Well, I am currently the head of something called the Association for Education and Rehabilitation of the Blind and Visually Impaired, or AER. It's a very long name for an organization, but basically it's the association that represents professionals who work with kids and working age adults and older people who are blind or who have low vision, just like your teacher.
Third question, where did you go to college and what did you study?
Well, I grew up in Southern Florida, and I went to college at Stetson University, which is in DeLand, Florida. And that's Stetson as in the hats and the cologne. I always have to mention that. And then after that, went to Washington, D.C. to attend the George Washington University Law School. And that was in the early 1990s, a long time ago.
Fourth question, do you carry your cane everywhere?
I do carry my cane everywhere. Most of the time, especially if I'm, of course, traveling by myself, it is extended and I'm using it all the time. But even when I'm with other people, I always have my cane with me because you never know when it is you are going to be needing to travel on your own. And even when you're out and about with friends, if you need to use the restroom or you want to go off and check something out on your own, it's always good to have your cane with you. So I've always got a cane with me, and especially as I've gotten older, I've gotten in the habit of taking more than one cane with me because you never know. Sometimes things happen in life, and sometimes maybe a cane gets broken or something like that. So you want to make sure that you have a cane with you at all times. Yep.
Fifth question, how many courts have you ever been to?
So I did go to law school and I did pass the Florida bar, so I am a licensed attorney, but I don't practice law. Most of my career, in fact, all of it really, has been doing work at the national level, working to advocate for policies, for bills, for legislation, or for regulation at the federal level in the states to help children and working age adults and older people who have vision loss in whatever way seems necessary, frankly. So working on technology related issues, working on special education issues, working on ways in which to improve the healthcare system in the country, even working on copyright and how to make sure that people have access to information, a whole host of issues. And so I've never really practiced law, and so I've never been in a court practicing before a judge. But of course, I've attended trials, and certainly during law school, it was exciting to get to go to the U.S. Supreme Court, which most any citizen can do, of course. But as a law student, it was exciting to go and sit in the gallery and listen to a live argument before the U.S. Supreme Court. So I've been to a few courts over the years. Fortunately, never as a defendant in a lawsuit. Let's hope that never happens.
Fifth question. How do you deal with people?
How do I deal with people? Wow. Hopefully not abruptly. Hopefully with patience and empathy and understanding and generosity. I would love for that to be the case, but I think being a human being, I probably have a mixed bag of dealing with people. But I'm not entirely sure what you're driving at with your question, but I think, people who are not familiar with folks who are blind or visually impaired, I try to be lighthearted and funny and try to be help people be at ease when they're around me. And that doesn't really take that long. I think people genuinely are interested and want to be informed and want to have good information about folks who are blind or visually impaired. So in terms of my interaction with other people, I try to be lighthearted and all of that. In a business context, I think, meaning what I do professionally, the biggest thing is to treat people with respect and patience. Those are two things that I am always consciously thinking about. I'll leave it to other people whether I achieve it, but those are certainly things that are in my mind, that when I'm talking with someone, particularly if it's, you're talking with somebody and you need to, people aren't agreeing about what to do in a particular situation. You want to try to find a way to really listen to what other people have to say, not to always be talking, but to listen, ask good questions, and remember that these are fellow human beings and that you need to treat them with respect and to be patient with them. So those are the goals anyway.
That was actually the sixth question.
I know. I wasn't going to challenge you. See, because I treat you with respect and patience.
Seventh question. How do you deal with paperwork and using the computer?
Well, fortunately here in the 21st century, 20 years into it, where most everything is done online, either with a laptop or a smartphone. I'm an iPhone user, and I will tell you that if I can do a task with my phone as opposed to trying to get on the computer to do it, I will. It's just convenient, it's easy, it's at hand, and so that's what I do. There isn't as much paperwork these days, but if there is, a need to, physically sign a check or otherwise sign documents, of course you can do that electronically too. But if there's a need to interact with paper, you do what you can, and there are definitely services out there to help you with that. And so that's how I deal with it. But honestly, I can tell you that as far as paperwork goes, there's not a whole lot anymore, which I'm very pleased about. I honestly can't imagine 30 years ago or more people who had so much paperwork to do that they would literally have a paid reader or someone assisting them or, sitting side by side with them for a certain number of hours, even a day, to help them sort through paper and so forth. But we're very blessed now these days that most everything is electronic in nature. So that's pretty much how I do it.
So can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah. Is this your 8th question?
No.
No, this is a secret question.
Yes, it's a separate question.
Okay.
Do you use an app to read, the checks that you sign and stuff? Like paperwork?
Well, like I say, very little of that is happening these days, but if I did need to do that, there are certainly services that you can use to help with that. IRA is a name of a company that right now you can call with your iPhone and have an agent help you orient to a piece of paper. And using something like that, you could certainly sign documents if you were managing the paper that way. But of course, there's also, there are family and friends that you can ask on occasion, maybe not so much for work materials, but there are, family and friends are of course always around, that once in a blue moon, if you need some help, that they're certainly willing to help as well.
8th question. How does it feel to stand in front of a large crowd of people?
It's funny that you asked that, because I'm not going to tell you that I never get nervous, but I think it's an excited kind of, enthusiastic nervousness to get up in front of a bunch of people and talk. I know a lot of people can be scared of talking in front of a lot of people. I am not going to tell you that I've never been scared talking in front of people, but I think those times when I have been, it's when I haven't been as prepared as I know that I should have been. But if I have done my homework and I've, prepared in advance, I've got a really good sense of what it is that I want to say, then standing in front of a large group of people and talking, it does not bother me at all. And in fact, especially if you know that there's something that you want to share with people and you believe in what it is that you're working on, it's a cause and not just a job, then to stand in front of other people and talk is a fantastic opportunity to get your message across to a lot of people. And so you can be sort of excited and enthusiastic, and in that sense maybe be sort of in a positive way a little nervous, but especially if you believe in what you're doing and have done the work to prepare well, you can do it. And if you believe in what you're doing, it really, you see it as a great opportunity to get your point across.
9th question. Where have you ever been when you traveled?
Wow. So I've traveled around to a bunch of the different states in the U.S. I've never been to the U.S. Virgin Islands. Maybe I'll get to go someday. But I've been to, I don't know, maybe 35 of the 50 states, probably, something like that, traveling around to different conferences over the years. And I've had the opportunity to travel for work to London for conference. I've been for vacation, either on my own or with other people, to London, to Paris, to Germany. So I've not traveled as much as some people have. There are some folks, blind or sighted, who've been to a whole bunch of different countries and pretty exotic places, and some people who've, backpacked across Australia or whatever. I'm more of a luxury traveler than a backpacker or a hiker. But I've traveled a fair bit over the years, and like I say, a lot of it certainly for business on my own. And traveling for business, especially when you start doing it, you really feel like you're a grown up, because you think, oh boy, I'm now really traveling around, and I'm a businessman. I'm traveling. You get tired of work travel fairly quickly, especially if you do a lot of it. And there've been a couple of times when I was doing it a lot where you almost forget where you are because you're traveling every weekend in a different city, in a different hotel. And so it's a little tricky sometimes to not get a little tired of it.
10th question. What is it like to go to court?
Well, the only way I can answer that is how other people I know who've been to court as a lawyer talk about it. And, certainly the very first time you go representing a client, you're wanting to make a good impression and you're a little nervous because you've never really done it before. But a lot of people who do it all the time say that, frankly, a lot of the stuff that happens in court can be very routine, and that there are, especially if you're talking about civil proceedings, even some criminal proceedings too, but people who practice law a lot and go to court a lot would say that there's a fair amount of routine involved. But the biggest thing is to develop a rapport, again, having respect for the judge and your colleagues that are also practicing lawyers, the lawyers that you're opposing. Some people have the impression that, just because you're opposing another attorney in the courtroom that you all don't get along. And the truth is that the most successful attorneys are ones that they are good, fierce advocates for their clients, but that they get along professionally and have a lot of respect for and treat really well their fellow attorneys who they may be opponents of in court. So it's really very much like so many things in life about building good relationships with people.
That is all my questions.
How about you, Mr. Richert? Is there any questions you'd like to ask Mohammed?
Sure. Well, at this point in your life, what do you think you may want to do once you're out of school? Have you thought much about that?
Well, I want to be a doctor because it seems interesting.
Yeah, it does seem interesting. And we certainly need lots of doctors. Why don't you hurry up and get your education because we need lots of doctors.
Get education? I'm already educated from Dr. Sheffield.
Oh, yes. Well, she's a different type of doctor. What kind of doctor would you like to be?
A doctor for sick people.
Okay. Gotcha. Sounds good. And now, do you take your cane with you wherever you go?
Well, not all the time.
No, you haven't. You don't do that quite yet.
Because I don't go places on my own that much.
I see.
Except for school.
Right. Well, if you take your cane with you more, you might be doing more stuff on your own,
Yes.
That's good. And what's life like these days down in the Virgin Islands? You like it?
To be honest, the Virgin Islands is a nice place to live, but for a short period.
Okay. Not for a long time, huh?
But it's a good place to live.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not complaining.
Yeah, that's good. It doesn't do any good to complain anyway.
No.
Yeah. Nice.
Okay, well, any more questions for Mohammed, Mr. Richert?
No, I think we'll let him. We'll let him off the hook.
Okay. Well, I wanted to ask you both a quick question about how you're doing during with all this, the importance of staying at home during the pandemic. So people who are listening to our podcast may want to know what suggestion do you have for people who are staying at home to stay connected or to stay entertained even during this time? Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
So you should basically read a book or listen to audiobooks. Try to entertain yourself.
Great idea, Mohammed. And how about you, Mr. Richert?
I think that you should participate in podcasts with students talking about your job. It's a great way to spend the time because there's no point in going outside except for a nice walk and get nice fresh air. But otherwise, staying put, and if you do go outside, remembering to wash your hands, and not touch your face, which is a big thing for some of us. That's one of my bad habits.
Oh no!
Great. Well, I think that's going to conclude our interview. Hi, it's Dr. Sheffield again. Thanks for listening to the latest episode of the It's My Job podcast. Didn't Mohammed do a great job interviewing Mr. Richert? What do you think? Did you think of other questions you'd like to ask Mr. Richert? Or maybe you would like to interview someone yourself? Or maybe you have an idea of who we should interview next. We would love to hear your ideas, and there are lots of ways you can connect with us. One way to share your ideas is with a phone. Our phone number is 202-688-5044. You can call us and leave a voicemail, or you can send us a text message. If you ask us a question about one of our interviews, we'll try to read the answer in a future podcast. Let us know if it's okay to share your first name and where you're from, and make sure to ask your parents if it's okay too. We also have an email address for questions and comments, so you could email us at askitsmyjob@gmail.com. And you'll have to leave off the apostrophe in its, even though we know that there is an apostrophe in It's My Job. Also, there's no spaces in an email address, so no spaces when you type askitsmyjob@gmail.com. So again, our email address for your questions and comments is askitsmyjob@gmail.com. And you can find us on Facebook. Just search for Ask It's My Job. We have a Google Classroom set up where you can participate in online discussions about past and future podcast interviews. Teachers can share lesson plan ideas and connect with other teachers. To access the Google Classroom, go to classroom.google.com and enter the class code USULXEQ. Again, classroom.google.com and enter the class code USULXEQ. And finally, we have a YouTube channel called It's My Job, where you'll find all of our podcasts and can give us suggestions and ask questions. This was just our first podcast, and there will be many more. We need your help. If you're a student who is blind or visually impaired and would like to be an interviewer on a future episode, please have your teacher or parent contact us via phone, email, or our Facebook page, and we'll get you matched up with an interviewee. We'll ask you to prepare 10 questions for your interview and then set up a time to record the interview over the phone or over the computer. Don't worry, it's easy and will help you. If you're an adult who is blind or visually impaired and would like to be interviewed, please send us a message via email, phone, or Facebook, and we'll get back to you. One more time, our phone number for text messages and voicemail is 202-688-5044, and our email address is askitsmyjob@gmail.com. Again, askitsmyjob has no apostrophe in the Gmail address. Especially now that so many people are working and studying from home due to coronavirus, we hope that this podcast will give us all a great opportunity to learn from each other and increase our awareness about all the awesome jobs that are being done by people who are blind or visually impaired. Have a wonderful day.